Hello everyone, I'm Geek Freak and welcome to the video. Now, to my fellow Monsterverse fans, we've already seen Godzilla, Kong, Ghidorah, Mothra, Rodan in the Monsterverse, alongside new kaiju or titans. Now, when it comes to Godzilla and Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra and so on, those monsters was from the old Godzilla films. And I'm sure there are other kaijus or titans in those old movies that you want to see in the Monsterverse. Maybe you want to see Space Godzilla. Maybe you want to see Destroyer! Maybe you want to see Gigan. I'm sure there are other monsters in the Godzilla franchise that you want to see inside the Monsterverse. Or maybe from other franchises like the Mothra franchise, which has a connection to Godzilla. I'm sure there's some old enemies of Godzilla or Mothra or whatever that you want to see in the Monsterverse. Alongside Godzilla, Kong, Rodan, Mothra, you know, that sort of stuff. Now listen, I have made a top 10 list of monsters that I want to see in the Monsterverse from the Godzilla franchise. You know, from the old movies. So if you guys want to go and check out that video, please do. I go into detail as to why I want to see old Godzilla monsters from the Godzilla franchise in the Monsterverse. But today, I'm going to do something different. Well, let me ask you guys something. Would you guys like to see monsters, like giant monsters, that wasn't made in Japan, or specifically the Godzilla franchise or the Mothra franchise? Is there a giant monster that you would want to see in the Monsterverse? And I'm not talking about the Godzilla franchise or the Mothra franchise. Well, let me give you guys an example. When it comes to giant monsters, the United States is the rival to Japan when it comes to giant monsters. Like Cloverfield, the giant tarantula, the ants from them, the blob, you know, that sort of stuff. And yes, of course, none of these monsters are like, you know, giant kaiju like Godzilla or Mothra or something like that. But it's just an example. Or here's another example, a very famous example. King Kong is one of the most well-known giant monsters that wasn't made by Toho. King Kong was actually an outside monster. He's a foreign monster. And King Kong originated from America. He was in the 1960s Godzilla vs. Kong. And he was in 2021 Godzilla vs. Kong. And of course, he's in the Monsterverse. King Kong, I mean. And also, there was another monster called Zilla. Now, originally, Zilla was originally called Godzilla, but the Japanese got the copyright to Zilla and renamed him to the name Zilla instead of Godzilla. So Zilla is actually based off of Godzilla, but he was actually renamed to Zilla. So Zilla is his own character. So Zilla is kind of like an outside monster, and that's what I'm going to do today. I am going to be giving you guys top 10 monsters of what I want to see in the Monsterverse. And these monsters aren't going to be in the Godzilla franchise. These are monsters who is going to be from other medias. Again, I've already made a video as to which Godzilla monsters I want to see in the Monsterverse. So if you guys want to go and check that out, please do. Now, with some of the segments in this video, some are going to be standalones and well-known giant monsters or kaiju, and some monsters are going to be put into categories or segments in a group. But you'll see what I'm talking about when we get to the segments. And so, this is the top 10 monsters that I want to see in the Monsterverse that comes from different movies or series. And so, let's move on to number 10. Now, when it comes to number 10, I'm going to do a little bit of cheating. And in this segment, it's going to be the first of the 3 groups of monsters that I think should be in the Monsterverse. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I haven't seen every single monster movie. And listen, I'm not saying every monster that you see on the screen now all should be in the Monsterverse. What I'm trying to say is there is a lot more monsters that I'm not aware of that came from Japan. And it can be from the Godzilla series or the Mothra series or any standalone giant monster movie. And listen, I've already made a video about the top 10 Godzilla monsters that I want to see in the Monsterverse. So if you guys want to go and check that out, please do. But in this segment, the movies that you can see on the screen right now is a segment where the monsters aren't part of the Godzilla franchise. I mean, they might have a link to Godzilla somewhere, like Mothra and the monsters that she faces off against. But again, there are movie monsters out there, that isn't part of the Godzilla franchise. So basically what I'm saying is, this is where you guys can put your suggestions as to which non-Godzilla monsters should come into the monsterverse. I mean, there could be like a few Mothra monsters that you might want to see in the monsterverse, because she did have her own franchise. I think it was about 3 movies, I think. Or it could be like a standalone movie monster. What I'm trying to say is, there is more monsters out there that isn't part of the Godzilla franchise. So if you guys want to give your suggestions as to which monsters that isn't part of the Godzilla franchise that you want to see in the monsterverse, but it's got to come from Japan. And after saying this, you guys are probably thinking which monster that you want to see in the monsterverse. So before you put your suggestions in the comment sections, please wait until the end of the video. So remember, it's got to be monsters that came from Japan and it isn't part of the Godzilla franchise. Because again, I've already made a top 10 video as to which Godzilla monster I would like to see in the monsterverse. And remember, it doesn't have to be monsters that you see on the screen right here right now. These are just suggestions. There is a lot more monsters and giant monster movies out there. That's why I put the words and more on the screen that you can see now. So it's these movies and more that came from Japan but isn't part of the Godzilla franchise. So yeah, hopefully you guys know what I'm trying to say. So if there's any monster outside of the Godzilla franchise and is inside of Japan, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you guys was to twist my arm, I would say the monster Viren. That's the monster I would choose to be in the monsterverse. I know this is the weakest entry on this list, but the whole idea of this segment is to get you guys to look into more non-Godzilla franchise movies that have giant monsters, and that's also inside of Japan. But I think I would say Viren. And the reason why I said Viren is because I've been hearing people talk about him, and that's basically it. That's the only thing I know about Viren. So yeah, I do apologize for this weak segment in this list, but I promise you guys this, the next segment will be much better. And so with that said, let's move on to number 9. Now, when it comes to number 9, I'm going to do something similar to number 10. But in this case, I am actually more familiar with the American monsters than I am with the Japanese monsters. Now listen, when it comes to the American monsters, I'm more familiar with them. And also, there are loads, and I mean loads and loads of giant monsters. I wouldn't say that the giant monsters are on par with power when it comes to Japan with their giant monsters, but the giant monsters in America, again, I'm more familiar with. Now that's not to say that I know every single giant monster movie that came from America, but I do know quite a few of them, like the Blob, which technically isn't a giant monster, but he does have the potential of being a giant monster. There was that giant tarantula movie, there was the ants from them, the giant Gale monster, there was the giant monsters from The Mist. So yeah, America does have a lot of giant monsters they could use, and more. So just like the last segment, it has to be a monster or monsters from America. If there's a giant movie monster from America that you want to see in the monsterverse, please let me know in the comment section below. I mean, we've already had King Kong. He's already in the monsterverse, but I would like to see more than just King Kong. But if there was a monster that I would like to see that came from America, I think it would be the ants from them. I mean, yeah, the whole idea of ants attacking kaiju or specifically Godzilla is ridiculous, but ants are very, very destructive creatures. Alone, they are nothing, but in a group, they are a force to be reckoned with. But if it was a standalone monster, I would say the Blob. I mean, that thing eats any organic substance that it gets its tentacles on. I mean, there are loads of giant monsters in American films, but I just want to let you guys know something. There are American movie monsters that is going to be standalone on this list. So I just want to let you guys know that. The reason for this segment is just to let you guys know there are loads and loads of giant monsters movies out there. So if there's any giant monster that you want to see in the monsterverse that's from America, please let me know in the comments below as to which monster that you want to see in the monsterverse. But in my opinion, I think maybe the Blob. I mean, that'd be loads of fun. And there's plenty more giant monster movies out there, not just these ones I've got on the screen right now. So again, please let me know in the comments below and tell me what you would want to see in the monsterverse, a monster that comes from America. And so that said, let's move on to number 8. Now, when it comes to number 8, it's similar to number 10 and number 9. Japan had its fair share of giant monsters, And America has its fair share of giant monsters. And you can choose which monster that you want to see in the monsterverse from either one of these countries. But I also had another idea. We've had Japan and America, but what about other countries' monsters? Yeah, there are other monsters from other countries. You've got Yangari from South Korea. You have Gorgo from the UK. You have the giant troll from Troll Hunter from Norway. You have Reptilicus from, I think, Denmark. I mean, you have the Loch Ness Monster from Scotland. There are loads of movies on the Loch Ness Monster. I know I've already said the UK ones, but there was also the dragons from Reign of Fire. There's Orochi from Japan. Yeah, I know we already had Japan. Now listen, I'm sure there's like other giant monster movies out there that's made from like other countries that I'm not aware of. So if there's any that I don't know about or I've missed, please let me know in the comments section below. What I'm trying to get at this segment is, there are loads of giant monsters movies that come from other countries. So in my honest opinion, I think giant monster movies that comes from other countries should be in the monsterverse. I mean, come on, America's got loads, Japan's got loads, the UK has a few, Korea has a few. So I think there should be monsters that come from different countries and rightfully be given the spotlight onto them once again. So yeah, basically I'm saying, oh, there's Japan, then there's America, and then there's everywhere else. I mean, yeah, you've got like loads of Loch Ness movies you can check out. Again, there's Gorgo, there's Yangari, the troll from Troll Hunter, and so on and so on. That was made in those countries or co-created in those countries with other countries like the UK and America, you know, stuff like that. Or, here's another idea. You could have like giant monsters from like myths and legends, like Typhon from Greek mythology, or the World Serpent from Norse mythology. That, in my opinion, would be awesome. They could be from movies, or monsters from myths and legends from each country's origins. That, in my opinion, would be awesome. I mean, can you guys imagine the World Serpent actually meeting up with Godzilla? I mean, that would be mental. Or what if Typhon from Greek mythology faced off against Godzilla? Come on, let's see who is the true king of the monsters. That would be awesome. So yeah, I think every single monster, either from mythology or from movies, should get a representation and show off to the world where all these monsters come from all over the world. Again, like Yangari, the giant troll, Gorgo, Orochi, you know, etc, etc, etc. And I'm sure every country would love to see their monster in the monsterverse. That will get a lot more people to see the monsterverse. So let me ask you guys something. Is there a monster from other countries that you would like to see in the monsterverse? Yangari, Gorgo, the giant troll, the World Serpent, Typhon? Or is there another monster that you would like to see that I don't know about? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you guys was to ask me, I would like to see, well, basically I would like to see the British monsters, but I wouldn't mind seeing the World Serpent, the giant troll, Yangari, and other countries' monsters in the monsterverse. So let me know in the comments section below. And so that said, let's move on to number 7. And number 7 is Disgadora, or also known as Disgadora. And yes, this guy is a relative to King Ghidorah. He comes from the same alien race as King Ghidorah, and he was in the Mothra series. Now, the reason why I want to see Disgadora in the monsterverse is because Disgadora will give us more indication that there are more three-headed space monsters out there. I mean, come on, King Ghidorah can't be the only three-headed alien monster out there. I mean, for all we know, there could be an old freaking planet of these things. So Disgadora would be a great addition to the monsterverse. I mean, yeah, King Ghidorah is more or less dead, unless he's still in Mecha Godzilla. So in my honest opinion, I think Disgadora should be given a chance to come into the monsterverse and tell the audience that there is more of King Ghidorah's kind out there somewhere. I mean, come on, this guy looks freaking scary. This guy was in the Mothra series, and he was sealed away for a very long time, and then he got free, and he was resealed afterwards. So maybe Disgadora could have been somewhere like on the opposite side of the poles or something, and he's frozen in place and he can't move. Or maybe he comes from space, or maybe he's got an whole army behind him. I mean, there are some things that you could do with Disgadora, and one of those things is, oh, there's still more of King Ghidorah's kind out there somewhere. King Ghidorah wasn't the only one. So yeah, that's my reason. And so, like I said, let's move on to number 6. And number 6 is Cloverfield. Now, when it comes to Cloverfield, it's kind of sort of a split, because I kind of sort of have seen what this thing looks like in full scale. I mean, like, not like as in, oh, I saw it in full scale and I know what it looks like. I'm just saying, I know what the overall body looks like. And to be fair, he's lanky. Despite how massive he is, he looks really, really fragile. And I highly doubt that he could stand a chance against Godzilla or the other Titans. Now, I remember this movie. It was the old found footage where people was running around trying to escape this thing, or trying to go and help people, or trying to escape these little parasite thingies. Yeah, there are these, like, you know, little creatures that came off of the Cloverfield, or the Cloverfield monster, and those little creatures started attacking humans. And in a way, he kind of reminds me of Destroyer! Except in this case, he doesn't, like, you know, come apart and he's like in little pieces. But instead, there's actually little creatures either on Clover or inside of him. And those little creatures start attacking humans, and if you get bitten by one of those things, they poison you or something. And that's unique. It's a monster covered in monsters, or monsters live inside of him. And those little monsters go after humans, and they've got a poison inside of them. I mean, it was really, really exciting to see this movie. But the problem is when it comes to Cloverfield. Again, he's very, very lanky. And I really don't think he would put up a good fight against any kaiju or titan in the monsterverse. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. You're going to say, oh, but Geek Freak, if Cloverfield wouldn't put up much of a good fight, then what's the point of having him on this list? And why would you want to put him in the monsterverse? Well, there's two reasons. Number one, there's those little creatures that has a deadly poison. So even if this creature is like walking about, the tiny little creatures that's on this thing will come down and start killing humans. So at the very least, it'll give the humans something to deal with. And number two, well, Cloverfield, well, he's basically a baby. Well, from what I've researched anyways. Apparently, Cloverfield is an infant. So, if that is the case, that the fact that Cloverfield is a baby, then imagine what he would look like. Imagine how vicious, imagine how tall he would be if he was at full-grown adult size. I mean, compare Kong when he was on Skull Island to King Kong vs Godzilla, or Godzilla vs Kong. I mean, he's got much bigger since then. And you know what, that's kind of a shame because we never actually got to see Cloverfield in his prime. And we never got to see what he looks like in his adult form. And you know what? This is the perfect opportunity for Cloverfield to get back into the spotlight again. And this time, we could see him in his fully adult form. I mean, who knows what other powers he could have after when he's fully grown up. I mean, for all we know, he could have like super speed or poison that could poison other titans. I mean, who knows? Cloverfield didn't bring out his full potential, but the Monsterverse is a perfect opportunity for him to show him his full potential as an adult. So I definitely think that Cloverfield should be in the Monsterverse. And so, let's move on to the next one. And the next one is Pacific Rim. Now, just to let you guys know, I haven't seen the full movie. That's right, I haven't seen Pacific Rim. I've only ever seen a few clips there and there. Some with monsters and some with giant robots. Now listen, I don't know what the full story is behind these giant monsters. Like who they are, where do they come from, you know, that sort of stuff. But there is one thing that I think is absolutely cool, and that is the giant robots. I mean, come on, I mean, oh man, the giant robots in this movie looks absolutely so freaking perp. And listen, I have seen a few monsters there and there, from clips and pictures, but the one thing that was captivating was the giant robots. And that, in my opinion, is something that I think we need in the Monsterverse. Giant robots being controlled within the inside, piloted by humans. I mean, yeah, I know these things aren't technically titans. Well, okay, yeah, obviously they're not titans, and they're not giant monsters. But you guys cannot tell me that you don't want to see people controlling giant robots fighting titans. Now, here's the thing: we've already had Mecha Godzilla in Godzilla vs Kong, and he was a giant robot to fight and kill the other titans. And he had King Ghidorah's conscience inside of him. And at one point, they did try to control Mechagodzilla by human, using some sort of remote control thingy. But this, I think, at the very least, I think they have pilots inside of them. Like I said, I haven't seen the movies, but for what I've seen on YouTube, you cannot go wrong with people controlling giant robots with inside a robot. This is something that needs to be done. I mean, think about it. I mean, yes, you're going to come across titans that's just doing their job and they just want to be left alone. But you are going to come across titans that does need to be taken care of. I mean, sure, you've got other titans that could just deal with them. Godzilla or Kong or one of the other titans can say, hey, this is my territory. You go bye-bye. But I do love the idea that John Roberts comes in and actually takes down some menacing titans. Remember those flying snake bat things that was in Godzilla vs. Kong? It could be for something like that. Or what if Godzilla actually turned on the humans, either being mind controlled or he was a genuine threat? And for them to bring in some giant robots that can combat all of that, that would be the coolest thing ever. Again, I know we really had like Mecha Godzilla that was created to destroy Titans, but people actually controlling giant robots to actually combat Titans, that would be awesome. And you know what, just for the hell of it, bring in some of those monsters from the film. I mean, for all we know, those things could actually come from like the center of the earth. I mean, who knows? And if you ask me, I think that would be a really, really good idea. And so, let's move on to the next one. And the next one is the giant claw. Alright. I know what you guys are thinking, and you're right. This thing looks absolutely ridiculous. I first saw this thing on Cinemassacre's video. I think it was the top 10 monsters or something. And then when I saw the giant claw, I decided to go and watch the movie. And the origins differ where this giant bird comes from. Some say it came from outer space, some say it came from a different dimension, and some say it came from prehistoric times. I mean, it's been a very long time since I've seen this movie. I can't exactly remember, but from what I've researched, it's actually one of those three. Now listen, I like the idea that there are giant kaiju coming from different planets, and King Ghidorah and Disgadora are the same species, and they come from some sort of different planet or something like that. But if it was to come to the giant claw, I like the idea that there are more than just three-headed dragons out in space. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, we've already had Gigan that was created by aliens, and then there was Space Godzilla that had the DNA of Space Godzilla, and he went into a black hole or something, and that's what created Space Godzilla. But I like the idea that there are different species out there in space that goes around the universe, and the giant claw is one of them. Well, two of them, because we've had Disgadora and King Ghidorah. That is idea one. Or there's idea two. It comes from a different dimension. Now this is a really, really good idea. I mean, look at it. It kind of looks like a condor, a kind of sort of vulture or something. Apparently this thing comes from an alternative Earth or something. And if you ask me, I think that would be a better idea. Because to my knowledge, I can't think of any giant monsters that actually came from a different dimension, besides from the monsters from The Mist. So I kind of like the different dimension better. But to be honest, I don't really think that this bird would actually put up a good fight against Godzilla or Kong or whatever. So, in my opinion, I think they should make the giant claw 10 times bigger than Godzilla. So that way, it will be harder to kill, and Godzilla would need some help. Maybe some help from Mothra, Rodan, because, you know, they can fly. And you want to know something? I really do like this movie. I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous. The monster is, well, ridiculous. But that's the reason why I like it. I love it for its ridiculousness. I mean, yeah, you've got a three-headed dragon that came from outer space, and a giant moth, and a monkey with an axe. But in my opinion, I think having the giant claw come into the monsterverse would be fun. Some of you might think that this is just ridiculous, but I don't care what anyone says, I really love this bird. So yeah, without further ado, let's move on to the next one. And number 3 is Mecha Kong. Now, just like Godzilla, King Kong also has a mecha counterpart. And just like Mecha Godzilla, he really does look very stiff in a way, just like Mecha Godzilla in the old Godzilla movies. And I do believe that he was in one old kaiju movie, and that's basically it. Although I do recall a King Kong mecha in the Godzilla animated series, and they were facing off against a giant snake. Now the thing is, I really want there to be a Mecha Kong or Mecha Kong in the monsterverse. I mean, we've already had Mecha Godzilla, Godzilla's counterpart, but I say they should make a Mecha Kong. Now, when it came to Mecha Godzilla in the Monsterverse series, he had the consciousness of King Ghidorah, which in my opinion was a bit strange. But you could look at it as the false god wanted to kill the god when it came to Mecha Godzilla and Godzilla. But what if there was a Mecha Kong and he wanted to also kill Kong? The false king wants to kill the king. Or is another idea, what if Mecha Godzilla and Mecha Kong was in the same movie and they fused together? It could be like a Mecha Kongzilla. That would be so freaking awesome. I mean, instead of having like the consciousness of another kaiju inside of Mecha Kong, I think it should be an AI who thinks he's Kong. I think that would be the much better option. I mean, how ironic would it be if Mecha Kong was fighting Kong and it was Godzilla who saved Kong from Mecha Kong? I mean, that would be ironic. And you know what? That's just it. Or maybe that would just be too obvious. Maybe they could use Mecha Kong in some other way. I'm not sure how they would do that. Or, here's an idea. What if they actually made a Mecha Kong versus Kong? And then Kong destroyed him, and then when it came to the monsterverse where other titans will come in, they could rebuild Mecha Kong, and he's got all sorts of upgrades, and he could work alongside other titans or Mecha Godzilla. That's just it, man. I just really want to see Mecha Kong or Mecha Kong in the monsterverse. I think he would be a great addition to the monsterverse. And so that said, let's move on to the next one. And number 2 is, well, okay, technically this one isn't a monster from a series or a movie or a comic or game or whatever, but I do love the concept behind this. And that concept is Kongzilla. Now listen, we've already had clones. We had Space Godzilla, we've had Biollante, we've had Orga. Those are all well and good, but what if they actually combined Godzilla and Kong's DNA to create something like this? Okay. I'm cheating here. I know I'm cheating. But to be honest, I mean, come on, just look at this. I mean, a clone of the most famous monsters of all time made into one. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Now listen, when I was researching monsters for this video, I came across this comic book. Well, a page of a comic book. So I clicked on it, and then on that link, I found a statue of this. And, well, you guessed it, it was Kongzilla. And listen, I know this thing isn't from a movie or a series or whatever, but this is a fan-freaking-tastic idea. I mean, the toughness of Godzilla, the intelligence of Kong, the combination of the most powerful alphas. He can do everything that both creatures can do. So yeah, basically that's all I've got to say. Even though this idea of a Kongzilla hasn't been in any media, well, maybe a comic book, but that's besides the point. And you know what, I really do love this idea. I think it's a good idea for somebody to think about in future monsterverse movies. And so, let's move on to number 1. Now when it comes to number 1, you guys have probably guessed what it is. And this monster is an absolute must. Everybody give it up for the one, the only, the guardian of the universe, Gamera. OMG, I absolutely love Gamera. He can fly, he can regenerate, he has a falcon punch, he uses the Earth's mana to fire a blast. He is a cool ass monster. Okay, basically Gamera was created by the Atlanteans to combat the Gauss. The Gauss were also the creation of the Atlanteans, but the Gauss turned on their creators and started eating them, and they created Gamera to protect them against the Gauss. And Gamera's been fighting all sorts of monsters, space monsters, evolved Gauss, all sorts of monsters. And not only that, Gamera is also Godzilla's old box office rival in Japan. Now, when it comes to rivals, Godzilla and Kong are rivals, because you know, it's East versus West. But Gamera and Godzilla are rivals, like they come from different companies, they both fight monsters, and in my honest opinion, I've always loved Gamera more. I just think he's cool, and you know what? It is an absolute no-brainer that Gamera should be in the monsterverse. Like, he is in the top 5 greatest monsters of all time. Hell, there was even a fan-made fight between these two on the channel, Death Battle. So, what sort of role should Gamera play? Well, he could be the protector of Earth, like he stops Titans from going on a rampage, he could stop humans from poisoning the world. He's kind of sort of like Mothra and Godzilla in a way. To be honest, I don't know what they would do with Gamera if he was introduced to the monsterverse. But again, I really do want to see Gamera in the monsterverse. It would be awesome to see the 3 rivals in the same monsterverse, Kong, Gamera and Godzilla. The 3 greatest monsters of all time in the same movie, and this is something that I really want. I mean, yeah, more or less people around the world know who Godzilla is and they know who Kong is, but I think it's time that the world was reintroduced to Gamera. And hopefully, and with any luck, we might be able to see some more Gamera movies in the future. I mean, we haven't seen a good Gamera movie in years, or any Gamera movie in general. So, Legendary, if you're watching this, please bring in Gamera in the monsterverse. I really want to see Gamera in the monsterverse. His roar gives me chills. The fact that he can fly, his backstory's good, his powers are freaking awesome, and also, he's a freaking turtle. I mean, who doesn't love turtles? Because I definitely love turtles. And I think it's about time that Gamera should come out of retirement and be introduced into the monsterverse. And that's it for me, guys. Now, let me ask you guys something. Is there a monster that you want to see in the monsterverse? Is there a monster that you want to see have more light in the monsterverse? From a game, a book, a comic, or other? Please let me know in the comment sections below, and let's get a discussion going. I'm Geek Freak. Peace out. Thank you guys for watching. And if there's a series you want me to check out and review and give my thoughts on it, or if there's a top 10 list you want me to do, or any reactions, or responses, or rants on anything geeky, just leave links and comments in the comment sections below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Don't forget to like, subscribe, put the bell on, share this video, and leave a comment in the comment sections below. And as for my social medias, I'm literally freaking everywhere! I'm on most video platforms, social medias, forums, and support sites. It's best to pause the video and see where I am. Literally all this is down in the description box below. So if you want to go and check those out, please do. I'm Geek Freak. Peace out.